John, you can't really overstate the scale of what was on the line for Nicola Sturgeon today. Her integrity, her job as First Minister, the fortunes of the independence movement that she is so integral to. James Hamilton, the independent investigator, held all that in his hands. Did Nicola Sturgeon breach the ministerial code in her actions around sexual misconduct allegations against Alex Salmond? The independent investigator says she did not. So huge relief for the First Minister. But this is not over. Tomorrow Nicola Sturgeon faces a doomed vote of no confidence in her. But also tomorrow there's report number 2 into all of this. The report of a Holyrood committee with a much broader remit. And of course, Scotland goes to the polls in 2 months' time. You wonder how voters will perceive this extraordinary saga, which above all else has completely failed the woman at the centre of it, making the allegations, and also exposed huge rifts within the SNP. Had it gone against her, Nicola Sturgeon might have been quitting as First Minister tonight. The stakes were that high.
No, I'm going to do what I've done every day for the last year, lead the country through a pandemic.
Instead, she survives. An independent investigation into her actions as the Scottish Government investigated allegations of sexual misconduct against Alex Salmond concludes she did not breach the ministerial code.
Well, obviously, I'm very pleased that James Hamilton has concluded that I did not breach the ministerial code in respect of any of the allegations. Section 18 of that report is unequivocal. He says in terms that having looked at all of I think there's 4 key allegations were made against me in relation to the ministerial code, and he's considered all of the evidence, he's considered all of the material that was put to him, and unequivocally, not on the one hand, on the other hand, but unequivocally, he says that I did not breach the ministerial code. And, you know, I think that is important. And I said I would accept the outcome of Mr Hamilton's inquiry, and I think it is now incumbent on others to accept the outcome of it as well.
The foreword to the ministerial code was written by Nicola Sturgeon herself. She promised to lead by example in following not just the letter but the spirit of the ministerial code, a code that explicitly states that ministers who knowingly mislead Parliament will be expected to offer their resignation. 2 key questions then on which Nicola Sturgeon's future has hinged. Did she knowingly mislead Parliament? And did she follow not just the letter, but the spirit of the ministerial code? The Hamilton report concludes that there was no breach. Not on allegations, Nicola Sturgeon failed to declare several meetings with Alex Salmond until much later. And not on allegations she misled Parliament over a meeting with Alex Salmond's former Chief of Staff, where her opponents say she first learned of the allegations. The investigator said he couldn't think of any convincing reason why the First Minister would have deliberately concealed the meeting while revealing every other meeting she had had with Alex Salmond. It's a fact there have been catastrophic failings. When 2 women came forward with sexual misconduct allegations against the former First Minister Alex Salmond, the Scottish Government investigation collapsed, tainted, a court said, by apparent bias.
The Scottish Government fell at the first fence. I think they would have fallen at all the other fences as well.
It prompted 2 inquiries. The verdict from a committee of MSPs comes tomorrow.
I'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
After extraordinary evidence in which Mr Salmond and Ms Sturgeon, former friends and allies, gave the committee wildly different accounts of several meetings and conversations between them. The committee's outcome, leaked last week and already rubbished by Ms Sturgeon's allies as a political attack, will apparently conclude she did break the ministerial code. That saga has hogged the headlines. But today is all about the closely guarded work of James Hamilton, the Scottish Government's independent advisor on the ministerial code, who has reached a different conclusion. The Scottish Conservative leader, though, says the First Minister is not free and clear.
The James Hamilton report says it's up to MSPs to determine if Nicola Sturgeon has misled the Scottish Parliament.
This independent investigation, you couldn't ask for more than that, though, could you? It's cleared her. It's cleared the First Minister.
Nicola Sturgeon said she would look at both of the reports that were pending, both the James Hamilton report and the Scottish Parliament inquiry, a cross-party inquiry led by an SNP MSP into her behaviour and actions throughout this exercise.
Scottish Labour's leader is also saying wait for tomorrow's committee report. Are your MSPs going to look pretty silly, though, when they effectively come to a different conclusion to the independent investigator on the ministerial code?
No, not at all, because what James Hamilton was looking at was specifically whether he believed there was a breaching of the ministerial code. What the committee inquiry is looking at is a much wider remit, looking at the role of government around its harassment policy, and we will await the publication of that report tomorrow.
Nicola Sturgeon will expect to bat off what's coming her way at Holyrood. None of this has been pretty, but it has not cost her her job.